What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Saros, PS5 exclusive. First thing I want to talk about is just the straight up gameplay. So, gameplay wise, this game is a 3D bullet hell roguelike, maybe adventure game, depending on how far you want to stretch that definition. So as far as the gameplay goes, gunplay is great for the most part. Generally, I only stuck with the onslaught rifle. Obviously, with roguelike elements, you do have several different types of weapons. I found the onslaught rifle was the way to go, which is very unfortunate because that took away one of the biggest roguelike elements from the game. Whatever gun you ended the last mission with, you're going to start the next mission with. So I always made sure that I ended with the onslaught rifle so that I could continue with the onslaught rifle. And the only time that I got weapon upgrades mid-mission was for another onslaught rifle. You may kind of see where that's going, where the roguelike elements aren't really that great in a game that wants to be a roguelike game. Other than your weapons, you really have your artifacts. These are the things that are really going to change up the gameplay and playstyle the most, but there's not a big variety of them, and whenever it comes down to it, it's easy to forget which artifacts you even have during the run that you're going through. I'm very familiar with other roguelikes, such as Binding of Isaac. If you get a certain weapon or ability in Binding of Isaac, there's a visual cue whenever you're firing your tears that lets you know like what that specific artifact or ability did. In Saros, that's just not a thing. Also, it doesn't seem like too many of the artifacts are very cohesive in gameplay. So, to point at another roguelike, if I were to talk about Balatro, during a Balatro run, you want to focus on one type of gameplay during that run, and that's going to be your main focus. Whereas with Saros, even though it has those roguelike elements, there are plenty of times where I would just skip over some of the upgrades, if you want to call them that, just because I didn't see a huge benefit in gaining the upgrade. And during the gameplay, you'll play maybe one half of the mission as just a regular mission, and then the other half you start this eclipse where all the enemies get harder. The level design actually gets harder, which is it's a really cool concept. It really makes you think, do I want to go ahead and eclipse early? Do I want to go ahead and eclipse later? Sometimes you have that option, sometimes you don't. Along with the harder enemies and the harder level design, you're also going to get more areas where you can access different artifacts and different roguelike elements. But again, the roguelike elements aren't that great. The positive effects, there's not enough of them to keep the gameplay keeping that random feeling of a roguelike. And the negative effects, I think there's 5 total in the game. There's probably more, but there's only, I can only really remember 5. It's like you get fall damage, enemies are harder, the recoil on your gun goes up. It's very basic negative effects. And like I said, even the positive effects aren't anything to write home about. Speaking of the eclipsing and everything like that, I gotta say, the level design in this game is absolutely amazing. The entire time that I was playing it, the level design is absolutely amazing. You know that feeling in a game where you know that a certain part of the game is a slog, so you might go back to play through the game and you're like, oh man, I'm really not looking forward to that one part of the game. I don't think it's there with this. The only issue though is that because it's a roguelike, they expect you to die, upgrade your gear, run through the same part again. That gets really boring really quickly. And without those roguelike elements there, like they would be in another game that is designed around it, it really just feels like I'm running through the same thing with just slightly better stuff because you do have that upgrade tree. It ended up limiting my play sessions to about 2 to 3 hours before I was just like, yeah, I'm getting bored with the game. And again, I think one of the greatest sins that a game can commit is being boring. I don't play a game to be bored. I play a game to be interested and immersed in a world. It just doesn't happen with Saros. And generally, even games that I would consider like somewhat boring, like I don't really like grinding in RPGs. Sometimes those turn-based RPGs can be a slog as well. But it's the story. The story generally brings me back to those RPGs. The story in Saros, it has a story and it has a massive amount of lore. I'll give it that. A lot of audio logs, a lot of text files, stupid amount of lore. And if you're into that, great. However, I am not. I like games with lore. I like to get into the lore of them. But as far as playing the game, I just want a good story to experience through the playthrough. So the story is definitely a weak point for Saros. The roguelike elements are definitely a weak point for Saros, because with a roguelike, you want to have a reason for your players to keep coming back. And again, I just feel like once you're done with the game, there's no reason to come back to it because the roguelike elements just aren't there. You're not going to get like a god run, mostly because you beat the boss and it kind of ends. If it had an infinite mode, and maybe it does, maybe it's past the final boss. I'll be real with you. I got to the final boss. I didn't get past him. It is in the works to get past him, though. Don't think I bitched out of the game. I didn't bitch out of the game. I just had to get this video out on Saturday to stay consistent. The way that you fix Saros' issues, don't let me go in with a gun that I've already had. Give me like a little fucking pistol going into the mission. Let me scrounge for the weapons, because once I found the onslaught rifle and I knew that was what I was going to use, there's no point for me to pick up any other gun. The damage output from the other guns, it's not crazy. It's not enough to make me pick up that weapon. Same with your charge ability. I ran Prominence the entire time. It's basically a rocket launcher. Some of the other charge abilities, there was one that is kind of like a railgun, I think you would call it. You had another one that was like a minigun. I want a fucking rocket launcher. I just want to blow the motherfucker up and not have to worry about him. I think you start the mission with a pistol. You give way more depth to the artifacts, which that's another thing that I will say. Pre-eclipse, all your artifacts have are upsides. After you eclipse, your artifacts are going to have both upsides and downsides. There's certain downsides that's all that I was looking at in the game was, alright, well, what's the downside to this artifact? I didn't really look at the upside to it. And that's just because fall damage is bullshit. Your weapon jamming after you get hit is bullshit. Your dash cooldown being extended is bullshit. All the other negative effects, I don't care. I can play through that. But those three, I would never pick them up. And that's, 3 out of 5. But yeah, I think that you do those implementations to gameplay, and then you really just improve the story, because the story, from what I could see, is that the corporation you're working for is evil, and Arden, your main character, is a little earth cuck that went to space to go find a girl that already was over him. Maybe there's more to it that's in the text logs and the audio files. I'll never know. You should have told me that during the story. You had plenty of opportunity for the, probably 14 hours of gameplay. All that being said, I think that Saros is a solid 7 out of 10. It's still a good game. I still plan on playing it to beat it, unlike other games that I've reviewed, Crimson Desert. But yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. That's all I gotta say. Have a good one. Peace out. See you next time.